Okay, not sure why the recording stopped there. That was strange.
Oh, what just happened?
Oh, can you all still hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think my MacBook tried to sign me in. Let me log out from my MacBook. Apple decided they'd take away the ability to sign out of things recently on a recent update. And I find it very, very aggravating because it's I have multiple machines. I use more than one computer. And I also have virtual machines on these machines and then virtual machines on the cloud. And I have like a whole network I use. So having a system that automatically logs me out of everything else and tries to log in, keeps me automatically logged into stuff, has gotten a little aggravating a couple times. But over here in the Chromebook, if I share my screen here. Goes out of this stuff. So there's a similar thing. We'll just look at the file structure to kind of start with it. I guess one of the really, really nice things about a Chromebook is if you're not used to using it, Control, Alt, and slash, the // the one by a question mark, people often give them the wrong terms. The one over here by a question mark is a / because it's the top is forward, it's going forward. And the one up here is the backslash because the top is to the left side. A lot of people give those the wrong name, but the regular slash down there by the question mark and the shift key, if you push Control Alt that, you get a list of all the keyboard shortcuts. Maybe it's better if I try to do it from this. Oh, there's the link. And that adjusts as you have different software open. So any keyboard shortcut, that's the one to remember. Control Alt / will open all of your keyboard shortcuts on a Chromebook. And then you have that nice little list of them.
What key does Mac has?
Mac, we have to go into a slightly different one. I'm going to pull up the Mac here in just a moment. There's a couple ways in. I usually just Spotlight's probably the easiest, but there's a couple other ones. We'll see that here in just a second. And Alt Shift M will open the equivalent of the file explorer there. What do they call it? I guess it's just files. But Alt Shift M will open that. And then kind of the same thing, you can use your tab key to navigate around. There's no address bar, so we can't type in an address like we can on a Windows, but Control W will still close it. So the big one is Control Alt /. If you remember that, you can immediately get the list of every keyboard shortcut on your Chromebook, and it adapts as you have other software running. Control W closes stuff just like it does on a Windows machine, and Alt Shift M will open up your file browser or explorer, and then you can just use the tab key and the arrows to navigate around. And the same thing, the up and down is kind of obvious, and then left and right can be used to expand and collapse the folders over in the tree. And when you get to the folder you want, the enter key will go into it. There's not as many buttons here, so the tab key will go all the way through them a lot quicker. And again, Control W will close the stuff. And that gets a good, if you start using the keyboard shortcuts, start practicing with that, it will be very useful in the long run. And we're going to see a whole bunch of these things over the course of the semester. Just periodically whenever it feels like you've been talking a lot and writing a bunch of notes on the board, I'm taking a moment to like do some stuff and show you some stuff that should be useful. I believe it will be. I believe these things will be very useful for you. Let's see. Don't connect audio. Turn off the video. Let's try joining again with the MacBook. Certainly not signed into my account this time. And a whole bunch of clicking because the MacBook doesn't believe that I want to connect to Zoom without audio. And yeah, another thing is the multiple systems here. I have a bunch of computers, but there's also virtual machines that might be worth looking into, because if you're heading into IT, you're probably going to see the other systems periodically, right? They might show up from time to time. So it's good to at least be somewhat familiar with them as you see them. So let me share my screen. Oh, I went to the Chromebook first because somebody put the comment about the desktops, commented about the desktops, and that reminded me the Chromebook has a desktop button. So to switch between desktops on a Chromebook there's one button right there. It's like a box with a couple little lines beside it, right in the middle. So that is definitely the easiest system to switch desktops on. But my MacBook apparently updated, so Apple says it's not safe to share your screen. I have to go turn that back on. If it wasn't for Apple being able to make decisions on my computer, I would be much happier with my MacBook. But things like that. Apple gets to decide whether or not I share my screen on a Zoom call. And it's not the easiest thing to override either. So the average computer user, if you're heading into the IT department, you'll get questions like that. The shortcuts make a big difference. Oh, and also, yeah, the comment about Chromebooks, and a lot of people are familiar with like the Chromebook, the high school distributed, and those were like locked down, so you couldn't do anything on them. If you have a not locked down, if you have the full access to your Chromebook, you can do so much more. But some of that's mostly the school locking it down. Like I have a laptop in my office, a really nice laptop. I think it's got an i7 processor in it, but Ivy Tech administrators decided what can and can't be done on that computer. So it seems like I can't really do much more than check my email on that. I've had trouble with teaching classes that I teach, not even being able to put the software of classes that I teach on there. Like when I taught last time or 2 times ago that I taught the software development with Python course. It wouldn't even let me put Python on the office computer. So when somebody else locks down the computer, that's very different. But that's a little sidetrack from what I was going to click on here. So now I can share my screen on the Mac, I think. So on if it wasn't for this, I would like Macs. I just turned that off and it tried to turn it back on immediately. I think I should be the one that makes decisions on my computer instead of Apple. So the main thing on a MacBook is kind of the easiest keys to press. Right? The easiest thing to do on a keyboard would be to press your 2 thumbs down. So Command and Spacebar pulls up your Spotlight search. And this is the best way to get into anything. So if you wanted to open the terminal, you can just search for it, pull it up. It'll do the local search first, then some other ones. And it's it has some basic memory to it. So after you search for something, that moves it up the ranking on the list. So if you search for, you're probably going to use the same software over and over again. So it will use that. In just a couple times, that'll make it to the top of the list. And that's a really easy one. Command W will close stuff. But for search, you can just click, you can just escape out of it. But that's kind of the easiest thing to do on the keyboard. So the two buttons right under your thumbs, Command Space, will open up that search and you can find any of your stuff. Finder is going to be your main, what Apple calls the file, your file browser, your file navigation control. There's different terms for it. The easiest way is just to kind of go in through that. The way I often do it, and if you're heading into IT, it'll probably be very useful, is if you push Command Shift U, that goes to your system utilities. So that's all your control tools. So if you're heading into IT, you're probably going to use those tools a lot. And then once you're in the system, if you push Command and the up arrow, that goes up a level. So then like up to applications. And from here, you can use the arrows to get to any of the programs installed on the system. Command up and left and right will go over to the folders. And this one throws people off at first. I'm pressing the enter key, but it's not going into that folder. That's the one that most of us think would go in there. But just like we push Command up to get to a parent directory, we have to push Command down to get into a folder. And then over here is all the documents and stuff. So that's what I think is the easiest keyboard shortcut, because we can also always get to those. And Command W will close it. So if you're over here, Command Shift U gets your system utilities. And then from there, or any place you go in Finder, wherever you're at, Command and up and down, along with left and right, will navigate through your file system to get to whatever program or application you want. And it's a good way to, it takes a little bit of practice. Some things on Mac might not be, they're easier on Windows and Chromebook to do with the keyboard shortcuts specifically. I guess one thing that's different, if I open up the browser on Windows and a Chromebook, Alt D gets you to the address bar. On an Apple machine, any of the Apple machines, it's Command L will put you up in the address bar, where you can just type the address and navigate that way with the keyboard. It's a lot of control to doing it that way, but really on a Mac, it's a Unix system. So if you want keyboard control, you're much better off to go to terminal and just directly control the operating system through your operating system control language. That's immediately available at top level on every Mac. So that's a much better way, but there are still some keyboard shortcuts. There's actually a lot of different ones, but Command Shift U will open up your utilities, and then you can just navigate through your file structure with the graphics instead of using the command and arrow keys instead of typing in words in the terminal. because humans are quite prone to making typos. So, and it is still nice to have pictures, have different colors and things that we can see. Command O to open a file. Thank you. That is a good one. Command. We get the chat box out of our way. Yeah, or obviously the old style mouse work. You know, just using your mouse works as well. It's not. There's more than one way to do these things. Command down. I'll go back to the keyboard and. Command Shift New will make a new folder. And instead of Command down, Command O also opens it. So there's multiple keyboard shortcuts. And we can also write those ourselves. I wanted to show the standard ones that come built into your operating system instead of how to make your own, because if you're heading to IT, you're probably going to have your hands on other people's computers from time to time. And they won't have the keyboard shortcuts you wrote yourself. But we also have full control over those. Oh, that was a new window. Yeah, that's probably good for that. Just some basic navigation is a great starting point. So practice some of that stuff. Try to do some things you're familiar with without taking your hands off the keyboard. Like things that you would normally do with a mouse. That's my recommendation for our lab time today. Right? It's an active subject we learn by doing. And my recommendation for today is to spend a few minutes trying to do some things that you normally would do without taking your hands off the keyboard. Oh, one other one that if you're going to practice that might be useful on Windows back over here. Most people are in a Windows machine. If you go to the address bar here, so I hit those keys, Windows E and then Alt B to open that. Win Word is how you open Microsoft Word. The name of the software as far as our operating system goes is different than what we know. Excel and PowerPoint are still Excel and PowerPoint, but a lot of people, if they want to open Word that way, they try to just say Word, but it is Win Word. It's a good thing to practice. Try doing some stuff without taking your hands off the keyboard, because that is a skill that will, no matter where you're headed in IT, whether you're going to be IT support, software development, cybersecurity, data analytics, wherever you're heading in IT, that skill will benefit you in the long run. So that's my recommendation for today. Let's see, we have about 50 minutes left of class time. That was all I had for today, and unless anybody had any questions. Okay, that was 5 seconds of silence. I assume that means no questions. Please use our time productively. You just heard my recommendation, but you should have your schedule blocked off at this time to learn IT stuff. So please spend it learning IT stuff. I can't answer questions for more than just this class. I'm gonna be sitting here until 3:50. If you have any questions, text messages and Ivy Learn messages are the two things that make noise on my phone. So that's the quickest way to get a hold of me, and I'll jump right back on a Zoom call. I think a couple people had questions, so I'm gonna stick around on the Zoom call and address those now anyway. But otherwise, unless you had a question, want to stick around, I will see you all on next Tuesday. You'll have a good weekend.
Well, I'm ready for my question.